Coming to you from behind the craziest socialist lines of the Pacific Northwest, local and national news, talk, and opinions, this is the Behind the Line podcast.
Well, the Seattle City Council approved its budget for 2022 yesterday. And do you want to take a guess on if they listened to voters or the crazy activists? I bet you can't guess. This is a report from King 5. The Seattle City Council approved a more than $7 billion budget for 2022, deciding how much the city will spend on policing, solving homelessness, cleaning public spaces, and a number of other priorities. Councilmember Kasharma Sawant was the lone no vote. The roughly 2-month budgeting process initiated by Mayor Durkan was marked by an election which many regarded as representing a shift in the city's policies and controversy over cuts to the Seattle Police Department's funding. But like I said, do you think they listened to voters, even though voters easily voted in the moderate mayor who ran on restoring police department, officers, and budget, and did not vote for the current city council member who was running for mayor? The council's 2022 budget responds to the most pressing crises facing our city in the wake of COVID and rising income inequality by creating affordable housing, sheltering more who are homeless, ensuring equitable economic recovery, and investing in public safety, Councilmember Teresa Mosqueda said in a prepared statement. The budget for SPD shows a nearly $3 million increase in appropriations compared to the adopted 2021 budget, going up from nearly $363 million to about $365.5 million. But the additional funding is not focused on significantly increasing the police force. During the COVID-19 pandemic and civil unrest over the last 2 years, SPD has seen historic officer attrition, with hundreds of officers resigning or retiring and leaving millions of dollars in salary savings. The budget looks to take funds and reinvest them in administrative improvements at SPD. Yeah, that's what we need. Administrative improvements. And community programs like an alternative 911 response model and additional community services officer and strategies to prevent gun violence. Again, all the typical liberal talking points that don't actually ever fix the problem. Statement from the City Council following approval states that there are no cuts to officers or their salaries and fully funds SPD's hiring plan of 125 officers next year. The budget proposal stated SPD has experienced a net loss of more than 193 officers since the start of 2020. Interim Chief Diaz recently said the department currently has just over 1,000 uniformed officers. The proposal stated it would give SPD the ability to have an average of 1,230 officers throughout 2022. Short of the 1,343 officers funded for the 2021 budget. Also short of the minimum staffing Bruce Harrell talked about when he was running for mayor of 1,500. Specific alternatives to public safety that are funded in the budget include the $2 million triage team through the Seattle Fire Department, which was proposed in partnership by Durkan and Diaz as a complementary program that can respond to non-medical and non-criminal calls. Yeah, not much help. The budget adds 5 officers and a supervisor to the Community Service Officer program. Yep. Aiding in the program's mission to bridge the service gap on non-criminal calls for service while conducting outreach work. The budget gives another $1.5 million to the Regional Peacekeepers Collective, bringing the total investment to $2 million. The collective is a group of nonprofits aimed at reducing youth gun violence. I'm sure that's going to work out. The budget came under scrutiny recently after Council President Lorena Gonzalez proposed removing the funding for 101 vacant positions, but in the 2022 budget, that proposal was rejected by the Council. As for homelessness, the budget focuses on two approaches: ramping up immediate services like emergency shelter in the short term and investing in affordable housing in the long term. The budget includes $194 million in affordable housing investments, including $165 million for the creation of new affordable rental housing. Another $15.4 million is included for new investments into homeless services. I guess they haven't figured out that throwing hundreds of millions of dollars at this homeless problem does not fix it, and it's only gotten worse since they started doing that. But hey, let's throw hundreds of millions more at it. Let's just keep throwing more and more and more money at it. Let's see how much of this money can be frauded away by these companies that the city contracts with to do services. That we recently had an $800,000 fraud by a company that wasn't doing anything, and one of the council members even knew that it was going on since July and didn't say anything or do anything about it. Additional areas of funding include the Clean City initiative, which looks to get more than $10 million to clean up litter and graffiti in public spaces, and commitments acknowledging a pattern of underinvestment rooted in centuries of institutional racism. These commitments to invest in Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities include $10 million to support community-driven community safety investments. Vague, blue talking point, liberal talking point, vague, give us money. The budget now heads to Durkan's desk for final approval. Meanwhile, the Downtown Seattle Association released a statement saying the city missed the mark with this budget. They stated, Seattle voters sent a clear message earlier this month that they want city government to prioritize addressing homelessness and improving public safety. Unfortunately, the City Council's 2022 budget misses the mark on both fronts. Despite being the largest budget in city history, it is incomplete with no clear strategy to meaningfully address these issues and support the recovery of downtown Seattle. The budget shortchanges the investments recommended by the Regional Homeless Authority. Why would the council listen to anybody that knows what's going on the street? In a downtown homelessness plan, and the council's opposition to the mayor's proposed SPD budget sends the wrong signal to officers and our community. Seattle voters in the downtown community want to see action and results on these critical issues to support the continued recovery and renewal of our city center, and we look forward to working with our newly elected mayor, city council member, and city attorney to make this a reality in 2022. Well, I think this is just a sign of what the new mayor, is facing when he comes into office. He's going to have an uncooperative city council that's not willing to change. They're just going to want to keep doing the same stupid things they have been doing that don't work, and just keep throwing money down the community program hole where it just disappears and nothing changes. I certainly hope that people react to this by voting Sawant out of office, recalling her on the 7th. Maybe the council will wake up if that happens and realize that they're going to have to start listening to people other than activists and homeless people. There is too much going on in this city, and the taxpayers are being completely ignored, not helped, and just not listened to at all. You got homeless people taking over neighborhoods all over the city, and the city won't do a thing about it. And they just continue to cow down to the activists and throw money around all these little organizations where there's no accountability and no data to even show that this stuff is making any kind of difference. And clearly, if you look around the city, it's not making any kind of difference. Things have just gotten worse and worse. People wanted more cops back on the streets, and they completely disregarded what the people want. I think this city council is a complete and utter failure and a joke. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Behind the Line podcast at behindthelinepodcast.com. If you liked this, I hope you will like, share, and subscribe to our channel. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook at Behind the Line WA. You can find us on Twitter at Behind WA. You can also find us on Telegram and LinkedIn at Behind the Line. And I'm on Rumble. Thanks again for listening, and I appreciate your support.